The ancient kingdom of Kush was one of Africa's most remarkable civilizations, flourishing in the Nile Valley to the south of Egypt. Known for its incredible achievements in architecture, art, warfare, and culture, the kingdom of Kush stood as a powerful and enduring entity for centuries. However, by the time the history of the region was being recorded by Greek and Roman historians, the once great kingdom had disappeared from the annals of history. What happened to the lost kingdom of Kush remains a subject of intrigue, and the story of its rise, glory, and eventual decline is shrouded in mystery and complex historical narratives. Kush, at its peak, was an advanced civilization that spanned vast territories along the Nile. It succeeded Egypt as one of the dominant powers in the region, and at times, the Kushite kings even ruled as pharaohs of Egypt. Despite its profound influence and legacy, the fall of Kush is a story that involves a mixture of internal strife, external invasion, and environmental challenges. To truly understand what happened to the lost kingdom of Kush, we must journey back through the corridors of time, tracing its origins, its peak, and the eventual demise of one of Africa's greatest kingdoms. The kingdom of Kush's roots stretch far back into the mists of time. It is believed that the earliest forms of Kushite society emerged in the region of Nubia, the vast stretch of land that runs along the southern part of Egypt, between the first and sixth cataracts of the Nile. The people of this region were known for their distinct culture and often found themselves in conflict with the Egyptians to the north. For much of its early history, Kush was part of Egypt's sphere of influence, often under Egyptian rule or controlled through vassalage. However, the Kushites developed their own unique identity, language, and culture. The first established Kushite kingdom emerged around 1070 BCE, during a time when Egypt itself was in political turmoil. The end of Egypt's New Kingdom period brought a fragmentation of power, and the Kushites, who had long been absorbed into Egyptian society and military, began to assert their independence. The kingdom of Kush grew into a significant political and military power, with its capital at Napata, a city located near the fourth cataract of the Nile. This region, with its rich deposits of gold and strategic position, played a key role in the development of Kush's wealth and power. The kingdom of Kush was initially influenced by Egyptian culture, but over time, it evolved its own traditions. The Kushite kings adopted Egyptian titles, customs, and religious practices, yet they remained distinctly Nubian in their governance and military traditions. Kush's kings frequently interacted with Egypt, and the two kingdoms had periods of both cooperation and conflict. Kushite rulers were known for their military prowess, and they launched several successful campaigns to the north, establishing their dominance over Egypt for a time. The most notable period of Kushite power occurred during the 25th dynasty of Egypt, also known as the Kushite dynasty. The rise of this dynasty marked the zenith of Kushite power in the Nile Valley. In the 8th century BCE, after Egypt was weakened by internal strife and external invasions, a Kushite ruler named Pi or Pianki rose to prominence. Pi conquered Egypt, eventually establishing himself as pharaoh. This marked the beginning of the 25th dynasty, during which several Kushite kings ruled over both Egypt and Kush, overseeing a cultural renaissance that blended the best of Egyptian and Kushite traditions. During this period, the Kushite kings were revered as pharaohs, and they sought to restore Egypt to its former glory. They focused on rebuilding temples, promoting the worship of Egyptian gods, and maintaining Egypt's military might. The Kushite pharaohs were deeply committed to the preservation of Egyptian culture, but they also brought a new sense of pride and identity to the region. One of the most famous of the Kushite pharaohs was Taharqa, who ruled both Egypt and Kush in the 7th century BCE. Taharqa's reign was marked by extensive building projects, military campaigns, and a deep commitment to religious reform. Under his leadership, the kingdom of Kush and Egypt were united under a single, powerful rule. Despite the early successes and stability brought by the Kushite dynasty, the kingdom of Kush's power began to decline in the 7th century BCE. There were multiple factors that contributed to this fall. First, the growing power of the Assyrian Empire posed a significant threat to both Kush and Egypt. The Assyrians were a formidable military power, and their expansion into the Nile Valley had devastating consequences for the region. The Assyrians, under the leadership of their king Ashurbanipal, launched a series of invasions into Egypt. By the time of the Assyrian invasion, the 25th dynasty was weakening, and the Kushite pharaohs were unable to mount an effective defense against the Assyrian onslaught. The Assyrians eventually overthrew the Kushite rulers in Egypt, and Egypt fell under Assyrian control. The loss of Egypt marked the beginning of the end for the kingdom of Kush. While the Kushites managed to retain control of their homeland, their influence in Egypt was effectively extinguished. With the fall of Egypt, the kingdom of Kush faced new challenges. The loss of Egypt meant the loss of a vital trading partner and a key source of wealth. Additionally, the internal stability of the Kushite kingdom began to erode. The capital city of Napata, once a thriving center of culture and politics, fell into decline. The kings of Kush began to lose control over their territories, and external threats, such as the rising power of the kingdom of Meroe to the east, further destabilized the region. After the fall of Napata, the center of power in Kush shifted to the city of Meroe, located to the south of the former capital. Meroe became the new capital of the kingdom of Kush, and it remained an important city for several centuries. During the Meroitic period, Kush experienced a cultural renaissance of its own, but the kingdom was no longer the dominant force it once was. The Meroitic kings of Kush established a new dynasty that lasted for several centuries, but their power was now more localized, and they no longer had the military might or resources to control Egypt. The kingdom of Meroe continued to thrive for several centuries, with the Meroitic kings focusing on trade, agriculture, and iron production. Meroe was an important center of trade, connecting sub-Saharan Africa with the Mediterranean world. The Meroitic kingdom was also known for its remarkable achievements in ironworking, producing high-quality iron tools and weapons. The city of Meroe itself became a prosperous urban center, with monumental architecture, including grand temples and pyramids. However, by the 4th century CE, the kingdom of Kush was facing a new set of challenges. The rise of the kingdom of Aksum to the southeast posed a significant threat to Kushite power. The Axumites, an African kingdom located in modern-day Ethiopia, gradually encroached on Kushite territory. In addition, internal strife and shifting trade routes further weakened the Meroitic kingdom. By the 4th century CE, the kingdom of Kush, with its capital at Meroe, was in decline. The Aksumite Empire's military campaigns and growing influence in the region played a critical role in the fall of Kush. Around 350 CE, the Aksumites launched a successful military campaign against Meroe, effectively ending the kingdom of Kush's dominance in the Nile Valley. The fall of Meroe marked the end of the ancient kingdom of Kush, and the region slipped into a period of relative obscurity. The precise reasons for the fall of the kingdom of Kush are complex, involving a combination of external invasions, internal strife, and economic decline. The shift in trade routes, the loss of Egypt, the growing power of the Aksumites, and environmental changes all contributed to the decline of the once great civilization. By the time the Meroitic kingdom fell, Kush had already lost much of its former glory. The Kushites had faded from history, and their culture and achievements were largely forgotten by the outside world. In the centuries following the fall of the kingdom of Kush, the region faded into obscurity. The Kushites, once a dominant force in the Nile Valley, were largely forgotten by historians and the outside world. However, in the 19th and 20th centuries, archaeological excavations and studies of ancient Nubian civilizations began to uncover the rich history of the kingdom of Kush. Excavations of the ancient sites of Napata, Meroe, and other Kushite cities revealed the grandeur of Kushite architecture, art, and culture. The discovery of the pyramids of Meroe, the royal tombs, and the elaborate inscriptions shed light on the remarkable achievements of this ancient civilization. The lost kingdom of Kush, once a mighty empire in the heart of Africa, had become a forgotten chapter in history. Yet its rediscovery has helped illuminate the ancient history of Africa and its important contributions to human civilization. The kingdom of Kush may no longer exist as a political entity, but its legacy lives on in the artifacts, monuments, and cultural heritage that have survived the ravages of time.